Hello YouTubers. This is a mini argument for faith, and what I would like to do today is I would like to share with you some life experiences that have led me to my faith and give what I call a mini argument for the reasonableness of faith. This is going to be a two-part video series. I would like to discuss some of the life experiences that have led me to my beliefs, and then the second part discuss the reason behind those beliefs. Over the last decade and a half, I've had the opportunity to travel all over the country and meet people from all walks of life. I've had some wonderful relationships and experiences, and some horrible ones as well. I've endured divorce and the loss of one child. I've lost friends and relatives to death. I've been laid off from well-paying jobs over issues I have no control over, and was lied about so others could get ahead. These are just a few of my bad experiences. On the bright side, I've seen some wonderful and beautiful things. I've met and befriended some wonderfully smart and sincere people, and in all my experiences I've grown regardless of whether or not the experiences were good or bad. Most, if not all, of these experiences have shaped and sharpened some of my beliefs and caused me to reject some beliefs that were also instilled in me as a child. I've always been a Christian. However, I don't believe my upbringing would be considered a typical Christian. I was born into the Catholic faith because my father was originally Catholic, and so was his entire family. For the first 7 years of my life, I was completely indoctrinated with the beliefs of the Catholic sect of the Christian faith, and for most people that would have been the end of the tape. You're born Catholic, you die Catholic. However, for me, this wouldn't be the case. Why? Because my father was one who would study, ask questions, and was one that just doesn't take someone else's word or opinion as truth. In this, he taught me some valuable lessons. One, truth always comes out in the end, especially if you look for it. I found this to be true in my life experiences. And two, never accept the opinion or beliefs of others to be absolute truth simply because they are human and capable of making the same mistakes as everyone else. So I've had to work hard to differentiate between fact and fiction, and I've always been one to take others' opinions with a grain of salt. My father decided to move away from the Catholic Church and decided to move our family towards the Baptist sect of the Christian faith. This wasn't a difficult transition because my mother was raised Baptist and her whole family was Baptist. We remained in the Baptist church for 5 years until my father, through continued study, decided that it might be best to move the family in a different direction spiritually, and so at age 12 my family ended up at the Church of Christ, and my mother and father have stayed there ever since. As my father would say, they haven't stayed there because the Church of Christ has a monopoly on the truth, which is the third thing he taught me. No one has a monopoly on the truth. The Church of Christ is the closest form of the Christian faith that he's been able to find to come close to what he knows and believes to be the truth, and by remaining as a member, the result is a clean and honorable conscience towards God. And that's why most people stay within most Christians stay within the sect that they find themselves, because it helps them to have a honorable conscience towards God. Now, as a result of my spiritual journey and that of my family, my family and I have had numbers and numbers of conversations about God, faith, the Bible, evolution, atheism, and all the different doctrinal issues that seem to separate Christians. However, despite these doctrinal issues that seem to cause all Christians to separate into various sects, we believe that most Christians share some common beliefs that are sound and true biblical doctrine. They are beliefs held by most Christians regardless of denomination. And because of God's grace, our Christian faith will result in our eternal salvation. I want to share some of these beliefs with you today in this video. But before I do that, I would like to share with you some wise advice that my father has passed on to me that has served me well in my life. The first three I've already shared. The truth always comes out in the end. That's number one. Number two, never accept the opinion or beliefs of others as truth or as absolute truth. 3, no one has a monopoly on the truth. 4, this one you kind of need to think about a little bit. It's kind of simple, but you need to think about it. That is, you don't know what you don't know. 5, everyone lies. It's true, everyone does. It's part of being human. And finally, 6, don't be afraid to ask questions, especially why. If God wanted you to eat the BS that others were trying to feed you, He would have made you a mushroom. Never accept or just believe what others have to say without attempting to verify truth claims. This may be a major difference in one's look at life. Now, some of this advice would seem at first to cloud judgment, but once I grew to understand it, I've been able to use it to separate fact from fiction and come to an understanding of what I believe to be true and being comfortable with the fact that I could still be wrong. In short, my upbringing and my life experiences have made me confident in my belief system, and at the same time stay humble enough to make changes when my belief system is faced with what I can see are clear facts. Over the years, I would describe myself as somewhat of a spectator of people, and I've noticed a few common threads of facts about people regardless of geography or background. First, when it comes to the spiritual arena, it is very difficult and somewhat confusing for modern day people. I'm constantly baffled at all the various notions of supreme being, heaven and hell, sin and salvation that people have today, not to mention the weirdness of cults, religious fanatics, the arrogance of the non-religious or unbelievers, some TV preachers, get rich through religion movements, and the list goes on and on and on. Secondly, it can be very difficult to tell the quacks from those who really have significant experience and wisdom in this arena. Then when we do find someone who is sincere and knowledgeable in this arena, often they are not able to communicate or explain what the real issues and options are in everyday terms. Instead, they throw around terms or phrases such as Savior, eternity, ask Jesus into your heart, open the door of your life to God. No one can know the mind of God, and expect us to know what they mean and then just believe it. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm sure many of these people have good intentions. They're trying to understand their relationships with nature, with the God that they may or may not believe in. They struggle with everyday moral issues. They really care for others, but often they do not know how to communicate to people like us the what, the why, and how of their worldview. In fact, at one time I was one of those people till life forced me to seriously evaluate and reevaluate my faith. The bottom line is that I have had to study, read, and agonize over questions of science, history, philosophy, world religions, archaeology, etc., to make sure I could trust in my God with a clear conscience and an honest heart. So finally I've moved forward in life searching for truth, and I've noticed that God is not afraid of my questions. I have been somewhat afraid of the tough questions, and to make sure I faced up to those, God has managed to send me a steady stream of people over the years that would pop into my life, ask me those tough questions, and then just disappear. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I have found intellectually satisfying answers to most of the tough questions. I get new ones all the time. What I would like to do for you today is try to encapsulate what I've learned in ordinary terms so that you can evaluate its truth claims and use that data in your search for significance and fulfillment. And so the second part of this video, what I've learned, is what I'm going to title what I've learned in my 16 years of life. And I'm going to share the first one with you right now. The first one is that there's something beyond the physical universe, something that calls this one. The vast majority of the human race has believed this since our beginnings. Since the day we began to write down our thoughts, we have shown that two things have dominated our thinking from day one: God and money. Our earliest records of civilization document extensive economic systems and elaborate and well-developed religious beliefs. Long before religion was discovered by the powerful elite to be useful for social control, kings quailed before the gods and the spirits of their lands and the lands of others. The concept of a God was not the invention of the powerful to control the weak. It is somehow embedded into our thinking from our inception. Even what little data we have before the invention of writing shows depictions of the supernatural creatures and prehistoric burial places or burial practices evidence a belief in a life beyond this one for our companions. The earliest records we have of religious systems show very varied, robust, fanciful, and often vain concepts of this beyond. But they have uniformly pointed out that we have always believed in something powerful beyond this physical universe. Our present day situation is not radically different. The vast majority of humans believe in some beyond reality. which is somehow involved in the events or the characters of the physical universe. The vast majority of the Western world is either theistic or supernaturalistic, and the concepts of this beyond vary widely, of course, but the fact is beyondness is very quite widely accepted. And I will continue this in the second part of the video. Thank you.